But now you have a new administration. There is a new chief of FDA, Marty Makary, and also chief of NIH, Bhattacharya, and also Secretary Kennedy. That was hope that something will change. I was listening. He said that all scientific papers are corrupt by the pharmaceutical companies, and they will not anymore publish anything from NIH in these papers. That even chief editors admit they are just a tool for promoting these agencies. How can you fight against this kind of? Let me explain you simply. If you have a game and they have a judge, there is no way that you can win because the judge is theirs.
Yes, I agree with you. It is such a corrupt system where everything is working against truth and transparency. It is an uphill battle. Now, I do want to say that I do have some faith in people like Bhattacharya, Marty Makary, and Bobby Kennedy. I do. And I think they are trying to do their best to right the ship. But when everything is working against you, it is very difficult. And I say everything, I mean the scientific journals, the media, the money, just the old scientific mantra. Remember where most of these journals get their money. It's from pharma. So I want to say that I do have hope and faith in some of the new leadership in these federal agencies here. But I would also tell you, talk is cheap, right? We need action. And again, I know we've had a very good relationship in the past with RFK Jr. And with Children's Health Defense. I do think the people that we just talked about, people like Marty Makary, Bhattacharya, and Bobby Kennedy, want to do the right thing. I understand, though, it's trying to move a mountain, and you're not going to move a mountain in a day. And don't forget, they all have everyone working against them, including our politicians. Okay, and this isn't just for us, the United States, a Republican versus a Democratic issue. Some of the biggest challenges politically we have here to try to get, say, compensation reform taken care of are people that are Republicans in the Health, Education, Labor and Pension Committee, people that are Republicans per se, but are very much against people like Bobby Kennedy. Bill Cassidy is an example. As you probably know, Senator Cassidy was one of the biggest opponents trying to keep Bobby Kennedy from getting his position in HHS. So it's people like Bill Cassidy that, while a Republican, is really very much part of what I would call is the old status quo. So this, I always want to tell people, this isn't, what we're working for is truth and transparency. And for those people that got injured, we're trying to, in a humanitarian, non-political way, help them. But our politicians, Republican and Democrat, aren't necessarily on our side.
Yes, I was listening a statement from Senator Kennedy, and he said, everybody is receiving money from pharma. That means no way they are biased in any case, and that's why it's not easy to fight against them.
Yeah, I mean, if you remember RFK Jr.'s confirmation hearing, you had people like Senator Bernie Sanders, who was literally attacking Bobby Kennedy, while he is one that takes millions from pharma every year into his coffers. And we were hoping that RFK Jr. would, I was at the confirmation hearing in person, and he finally kind of just started speaking the truth, which is Bobby Kennedy approached Bernie Sanders and basically called him out on it, because they all receive that money. And again, I understand politicians need to pay their bills and need to pay for their ads. But when it comes to things like this pandemic, when it comes to the things like the COVID shots, we have to rise above corruption and money. We have to rise above it and really, first of all, try to do the best and try to help people, reduce morbidity and mortality, from the COVID pandemic. I get it. But for whatever reason, all the people that got the shots, they did what they thought was their part, okay, and then got hosed. There needs to be a safety net. So we have here in the United States, during a public health emergency, something called the PrEP Act. So the PrEP Act, okay, when there's a public health emergency, prevents us from suing anyone. Well, I get that in concept, in a public health emergency, to take our rights away to due process and jury trial, because there was a public health emergency declared. Now, you and I can sit here and debate about whether really there was a public health emergency, but regardless, there was one declared. But my point is, if there's a public health emergency, if you enact the PrEP Act, there has to be a safety net for those people that did what they thought was right, got a shot, and then had an adverse event. And here in the United States, and I would tell you, as you know, most other countries, there's not an adequate safety net. It's better to ignore the people, to call them crazy, to call them anti-vaxxers, and which is, to me, one of the most comical things is to call me an anti-vaxxer when every person in my organization was vaccinated with a COVID shot. Okay? And obviously, I use the word vaccine very lightly when I talk about a COVID shot. But regardless, it's easier to ignore us and, frankly, censor us and call us crazy. Again, if you look at our own studies back, and we did a study of all our membership back in 2021 and 2022, and what was the number one diagnosis that we received? 90% of us had a primary diagnosis of anxiety disorder. Okay? That's it. So we were called crazy, and that's the way to basically censor. It's better now because I think everyone to some degree either knows someone who was vaccine injured or knows somebody that knows somebody. It's certainly better than it was a couple of years ago, but we have a long way to go to getting acknowledgement, okay? Not only acknowledgement of our injuries, but diagnosis and then testing and treatment.